Good morning to all. Welcome back to our course on the C programming language. So in today's session, we are starting with a new topic which is called as files in C. So we'll be discussing about how we are what are files and why we require these files and what are the various functions that help us to deal with these files. All these things we'll be discussing under this particular topic. But for today's session, we are just going to concentrate on the introduction part related to files. So we are going to discuss what a file is. We'll also discuss where do these files reside and why we require these files. All these three questions we are going to answer in today's session. And after this, we have one important topic regarding these files, which is the types of files. Very simple topic, but is important. And then we'll see some basic terminology related to the files, which I am naming it as the file terms, where we are going to discuss about two important terms that deal with the files. One is the buffer and the second one is the stream. And finally, we will end up with the discussion on standard file pointers. So this is our agenda for today's session. We are going to discuss all these topics regarding the files. So first of all, let me tell you what is a file. So if you discuss about anything related to the computer science, if somebody says that a file is nothing but collection of data. A file is nothing but collection of data, and that data should be related to each other. For example, if I say that first year CSC file, this means this particular file consists of the details of all the students that belong to the first year. So this first year is a related term. So all the students present in the first year class, they are related to with this particular data. So that is the reason why when we say the term file, we can say it as a collection of data, but collection of related data is a more relevant term to use with these files. And this collection of related data, they are treated as a single unit. So for example, I want to store all your registration numbers, mobile numbers in a single Excel file. So the Excel file will be having the extension as .xls. So let me name it as first year .xls. What does this mean? This is a file. So this is nothing but it consists of all the related data for the first year students, and they are treated as a single unit. So anything you consider in the computer terminology, anything where you are storing all the related data in a single unit, that single unit we are calling it as a file. Right. So that is all about what a file is. So the definition is a file is a collection of related data that a computer treats as a single unit. And the second question what we have is where we are going to store these files. We know that in the computer terminology we have two different types of memories. One is the primary memory and the second one is the secondary memory. So the primary memory, in general terms, we will be calling the primary memory as memory, whereas the secondary memory we will call it as storage. So whenever you come across the term memory, you just remember that we are referring to the primary memory, and when you come across the term storage, we are referring to the secondary storage. And coming to our files concepts, whatever files we have in the computers, everything will be stored in the secondary storage. We know that the secondary storage is a permanent storage. That is the reason why we are going to store everything that we want to retrieve for the future purposes, or that we want to store for the future purposes or for future references. All those things will be storing on the permanent storage, which is nothing but the secondary storage. That is the reason why we store all the files in the secondary storage. By this time you could have understood that what these files are, why we are going to store these files, where we are going to store these files, and both these terms or both these questions, they will answer the third one also. The third one is why we are going to deal with these files. The simple reason why we are going for the files is we want to refer those data for the future purposes. When you want to refer something for the future purposes, you need to store them in the permanent storage. So when you are going to store the elements in the permanent storage, then we are making use of the secondary storage. So the contents of the files, they remain intact when the computer shuts down. So we know the major difference between the primary memory and the secondary memory. So the primary memory is volatile in nature, whereas the secondary memory is permanent in nature, right? So whenever we need these permanent storage, we will be definitely referring to the secondary memory, and the reason is we are going to store those contents even after the computer shuts down also. So I can tell you few reasons or few scenarios where we can use these files and why we are going for these files. For example, in the first scenario, let me take the output. I'm giving the broad category as output. So till now we have written so many programs in the C and we have executed them successfully, and whatever output we get is a temporary basis. So you just look into the output, and when you click one button or you press any button on the keyboard, the output will be gone. So whatever output we are getting from the C compilers or the C editors, they are not permanent in nature. They are temporary. But sometimes you need to store the output for future references. In such scenarios, you should not throw the output onto the standard output device, which is temporary. So you should store the output of the programs in the files which is permanently residing on the secondary storage. So the outputs what we are getting from the C programs, those are temporary till now. But we came to know from this point onwards, we came to know that the outputs what we get from the C programming language or C programs can be made permanent by storing the outputs in the files which are in turn stored in the permanent storage. So this is one advantage we have with the files. Similarly, the second one is almost related to the same thing, which is input or output. Right. For example, whatever programs we have written till now, all those programs, they accept very simple inputs. For example, if I write a program related to addition of two integer values, the inputs what you are giving is nothing but two integers, and the calculation, after calculation, the result you will get it as one integer value. But there may be some situations in the real world or in the real industry, when you go and work in the industries, you need to give lots of inputs to the program. In such cases, giving input manually will be a very tedious task. So what you can do, what solution we have for this input, large inputs, whenever you need to deal with large inputs into your program, you can simply get all the data into a file, and you write a program such that the program reads the data from the file and treats it as a output. So this is possible only with the files. So when you have large inputs to be given to the program, then you need to give all the inputs inside a file, or you store everything inside a file, and you write a program in such a way that it takes the input from the files. Right. So that is the second reason why we are moving to the concept of files. That is the reason why we discuss all these files concepts as the last unit. So whatever concepts we have read till now in the C programming language, everything works with these files, but the only reason, of course, we have so many functions, additional functions to deal with these files, but there are few reasons, like when you want to store the output on a permanent basis, then you need to go for the concept of files. And the second reason is when you have large input to be given to the program, you can go for the concept of files. And the third reason I can give is a very simple reason. Whenever you want to move the data from one system to another system, for example, you have two computer systems like this. This is C1, computer 1, and this is C2. So this is located in some location, for example in India, and this is in USA. You run a program on this C1, and you want to give the output that is generated by this C1 as an input to the C2. So what you have to do, whatever output you get from the C1, you convert it into the file. That means you store it inside a file, and you can easily move this file from India to USA, and there you can easily access this file, which acts as the input for the computers. So for these few reasons, we are moving our discussion towards the files concepts, right? So when somebody asks you what is the simple reason why we are going to the concept of files, means because we need some permanent storage processing. So when you want to deal with some permanent data, or when you want to deal with data which needs to be referred in the future scenarios, in such situations we are going for the concept of files. And these are the few reasons why we need the files. These are the few reasons I have discussed, right? So when a computer reads a file, listen, you might be dealing with the computers, and you might be dealing with a lot of files in the computers. Whatever you take, for example, you consider a music file, that is a file. You consider a video, that is also a file. You consider a text, that is also a file. You consider a doc file, PDF, everything will be stored in the computer in terms of files only. And we know that everything will be stored in the secondary storage only. The only purpose we have with the primary storage is, it's very important that whenever you want to run the files from the secondary storage, you cannot do it, but you can run the programs from the primary storage only. So that is the reason why we have discussed in the earlier sessions that when you want to execute some program, or when you want to run some program or file, you just have to bring that file from the secondary storage, place it in the primary storage, and then you have to execute it. So primary storage is for running the programs, and secondary storage is for permanently storing the data. So these terms are important. Reading a file is nothing but we are going to copy a file or some data from the secondary storage to the memory. You can see here, it copies the file from storage device to memory. I told that memory is nothing but the primary memory. Similarly, there is another term which is called as write to a file. This one. Writing to a file is nothing but whatever contents you have in the memory, we are transferring those contents into the secondary storage. So it transfers the data from memory to the storage device. These are two terms that we need to consider. It is very important to deal with the files. Reading a file means you are just getting the file from the secondary storage to the primary storage. Writing to a file means we are going to copy the contents from the primary storage to the secondary storage on a permanent basis. And finally, one important point on this slide is when we are dealing with the files in the C programming language, C supports one special data structure which is called as file. You always have to write in the uppercase letters only. So till now we have never seen a C program that has been written the keywords, whatever things you take, we have already everything we write it in the lowercase letters only. But remember that this file should be written in the uppercase letters only. So to deal with the files, the C programming language supports a special type of data structure which is called as FILE, file, and this is defined since it is a data structure, it should be defined somewhere. So it is defined inside the standard library which is called as stdio.h, which is standard input output.h. So this is all that we have in the introduction to files. We have seen what a file is, we have seen where these files are stored, we have given a lot of reasons why we are moving to these, why we require these files, why the files are needed. And then we have seen two important terminology, that is reading a file and writing a file. And finally, we have seen the data structure that is supported by the C programming language to deal with files in C. And the next topic what we have is the types of files. So basically we will be discussing about only two types of files. The first one is the text file, and the second category is the binary file. So we will be discussing about these text files and binary files. So what do you mean by a text file? We have seen a lot of text files which ends with the .txt extension. So the text files will have the extension of .txt, and whatever data or whatever, whether it can be in alphabet or digits, whatever it may be, everything will be stored inside this text in a readable format. Very important. So it is readable. Whatever you store inside these text files, they are readable in nature and they are readable by the human beings. That is the reason why. And when we say that it is readable, that means we are going to store the data in the form of some sequence of ASCII characters. We know what this ASCII is. ASCII is nothing but American Standard Code for Information Interchange, which gives some number for each and every character in the C program that is supported by the C character set. So in text files we are going to store the data in the form of sequence of ASCII characters. Right. So that is all about a text file. That is the overview of the text file. So you just remember that text files have an extension of .txt. They are human readable. The text files store the data in the form of ASCII values. These are the three important points. So let us look at what this slide is going to discuss. So text files are files that are coded as sequences of ASCII characters. That is what I told. And files are organized as bytes, with each byte being an ASCII character. So whatever you store in the files, they always treat it as ASCII characters only. Remember, those are ASCII characters. Right? Even if you store a number, they are going to be treated that number as the characters only. So it contains alphabets, numbers, which are easily understandable by the human beings. So I told this one, they are readable by the human beings. So if you open a text file, you can read the contents what are present in that particular text file. And If there are any errors in the text file, they can be eliminated by just seeing them. Why? Because it's a normal text which is human readable, which is very easily understandable by the human. So when you look at that particular text, if there are any errors, you can easily eliminate them, or you can easily correct them. And in a text file, the text and characters will be stored as one character per byte. So for example, if you take a value, integer value of 4567, in general this is an integer, right? This is an integer value. So you will be declaring an integer variable to deal with this 4567 number. And according to 32-bit architecture, the integer occupies 2 bytes of memory. Maybe in 64-bit architecture, it occupies 4 bytes. That's a different case. So this 4567 is an integer value which occupies 2 bytes in memory. But when you consider it as the text file, each and every character will be treated as one character, and one character occupies 1 byte. Therefore, 4 is treated as one character, 5 is treated as another character, 6 as another character, and 7 as another character, and finally we have \0, one special character. So it occupies 5 bytes in the text file. And I told that the text files are mostly the txt files in our computer. So this is about the text files. Please remember only 3 important points. Of course, you may not answer all these things, but whenever you are asked about these text files, it ends with an extension of .txt. They store the data in the sequence of ASCII characters, and the data that is present inside the text files is human readable. And the errors that are present in the text file can be easily identifiable, and they can be easily modified. But when you come across the concept of binary files, binary, we know that this is a language which is easily understandable by the computers. So the easily understandable language by the computers is nothing but a binary language which consists of zeros and ones. So it consists of ones and zeros which are easily understandable by the computers. And the extension for the binary files is .bin. You might have seen this particular folder, right, in the C software also, Turbo C or Turbo C++, whatever software it may be. It consists of .bin folder where every binary file will be stored inside this .bin. Bin stands for binary. And regarding the errors in the binary files, when you open a binary file, as a human being, you cannot understand not even a single thing in the binary file. So these binary files are intended for the easy understanding of the computers, but not for the human beings. So when you look at the binary file and when you want to identify some errors, it will be very difficult. So probably you can say that it is highly impossible to identify the errors in the binary file. So it is not easy to detect the errors in the binary file, and when you want to change even a single bit from that binary file, for example, you take a binary file consisting of 1000 sequence of zeros and ones, and when you change a single bit from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, it will simply corrupt the entire file. So modifications in the binary file should be avoided at max. And when you come across the memory of the binary file, in a binary file the integer value 1245 will occupy only 2 bytes. The reason is, whatever we have discussed till now, 1245 is an integer value, and we need to deal with these integer values by storing these integer values inside the integer variables. And if it is a 32-bit architecture, this 1245 will be converted into a binary value, and it will be stored in the 2 bytes of memory that is allocated for it. So observe the difference between these binary files and the text files. In the text files, you are going to store everything in terms of characters, and since every character occupies 1 byte, it is equivalent to the number of characters plus 1 extra character, where we can say it as \0 or we can say it as EOF also. I'll tell you what this EOF is. EOF stands for end of file indicator. Right, this \0 is the end of string, it indicates the end of string, whereas EOF is end of file, which is a pointer that indicates the end of file. So in end of file will also be taken as a single character. That's the reason why the number of characters plus 1 is equal to the size of the text file, whereas in the binary files it depends on the data which you are going to store inside the binary. And remember, when you want to deal with the text files, you need to have some special software, right? So like Notepad, Notepad++, like that. Similarly, .doc or the, what can we say, that Microsoft Word document. All these files require some special software to open it, to edit it, and to do the remaining tasks. In a similar fashion, the binary files also need different software to deal with those different binary files. For example, if you take .mp3, this is a binary file. So whatever data that is present inside this .mp3 will be in the form of zeros and ones like this. And when you deal with mp4, this is also a binary file. When you deal with .pdf, this is also a binary file. When you deal with .jpg, image files, .png, any file you take, there should be an associated software to deal with these particular binary files. So if you consider this .mp3 and mp4, we need to have some multimedia players like VLC, Windows Media Player, like that. And when you deal with PDF, you need to have a special software called as Adobe Acrobat Reader. Similarly, when you want to deal with these JPG and PNG, since these are images, you need to have some softwares that are related to deal with the pictures. So every different format of the binary file requires some special software to deal with it, right? And mp3 files will not play, okay, this is a different case. mp3 files will not play in a image viewer or database software. And coming to the last one, I told that the binary files are mostly the .bin files in your computer, and I am saying that the last point is they are more secure than .txt files. The reason is, when you open a binary file, you could not identify what the content is. For example, I say that I am good. When I store this particular text inside a text file, .txt file, and when some intruder comes and he opens this .txt file, he could identify what this message is, I am good. But if I store this data inside .bin file, and when an intruder comes and when he opens this bin file, he could not understand anything. Why? Because bin file stores everything in a sequence of zeros and ones. So by looking at these zeros and ones, the intruder or the third party will not have any idea of what type of data that is stored inside the binary file. That's the reason why we can say that binary files are more secure than the .txt files. But remember that even if you change the flip part, I am saying the counterpart, right? If you take a text file and if I change this am to an, it's very easy to modify, and when this will not affect the .txt file. You doesn't have that much of damage here. But when you consider these binary files, and when an intruder wants to damage the file, he can simply modify this 1. The first 0 is converted to 1. Then everything will be damaged. So that is the level of damage that can happen while modifying the binary files and while modifying the text files. These are the two important differences, very important, point that you should understand is the differences between the text files and the binary files. We have seen lot of examples. I have explained everything clearly. And after these types of files, let me give you a few, only two terms related to these files. The first one is buffer. We have heard this term earlier. What is a buffer? So a buffer is nothing but a temporary storage. So we call the memory with different names. So we are familiar with the primary memory, right? We are familiar with the secondary memory. So like that we have RAM, ROM. Similarly we have stack memory, heap memory, registers. All these are all related to memory only, but we are giving different names in different scenarios. That's it. In a similar fashion, this buffer is also a temporary storage. Remember, this is not permanent. This is a temporary storage, as if we are dealing with the primary memory or registers, whatever it may be. So it is a temporary storage which is used to transfer the data back and forth between the memory and the secondary storage. Why we require these buffers means because of the difference between the speeds at which this memory and the secondary storage device works. So let me explain you clearly. For example, I have a primary memory here and I have the secondary memory here. We know that the speed of secondary memory is slower than the speed of the primary memory. That means primary memory works much faster than the slower secondary memory. Assume that primary memory is working at a speed of 100 bits per second. Let me assume. That means the primary memory is capable of sending 100 bits for 1 second. And let me say that the secondary memory is having a speed of only 10 bits per second. That means it can process the data only 10 bits for 1 second. But primary memory, it can process the data for 100 bits for 1 second. Assume that in the first second, the primary memory has sent some data to be stored inside the secondary memory. So for 1 second, it will send 100 bits. But the secondary memory is not capable of processing that much of data at a time. So it requires 100 by 10, that is equal to 10 seconds of that time it requires for processing 100 bits. So what they will do is, what they are going to propose is, whatever data I receive from the primary memory, I will store inside a temporary storage which is called as buffer. And I store everything inside this buffer. Whatever I get, I store it in the buffer. And this is a storage, right? So the secondary memory, they can take the data from the buffer and it can work at its own speed. So to cope up with the differences in the speed that the computers or the primary memory and the secondary memory works, we are going to introduce a new terminology which is nothing but a temporary storage area called as the buffer. So it just stores the data and it helps the primary memory and secondary memory to work synchronously. This is what the buffer is for. And we require these buffers when you are dealing with the data transfers from the primary memory and secondary memory and vice versa. So in the previous slide, we have seen that we have discussed a term called as reading from a file. So that means you are going to get the data from the secondary storage to the primary storage, and you require buffer in this case. Similarly, we have read one more term which is called as writing to a file. When you are writing to a file, you are going to transfer the data from the primary memory to the secondary memory. In such case, you also require the buffers. So buffers are required when you want to transfer the data back and forth from the primary memory and the secondary memory. And the second new term which we are going to understand in this particular slide is the stream. So streams play a very important role in dealing with the files. So the primary thing what we have to do with the files, when you want to deal with the files, is you have to create a stream first. So a stream is nothing but a mechanism, or it is a process where you are going to connect a file, physical file, to a device or to an output stream or some input stream, and we are going to process the file one element at a time. So that is the reason why we call it a stream. So in general, we will be hearing the term that stream of water. That means it's nothing but a flow of water. Similarly, when you are dealing with the files, when you are reading or writing the content from the file or into the file, you need to have some mechanism to deal with the flow of data from the files to the primary storage or whatever it may be. So to deal with, we require these streams. So files are manipulated in C with streams, and a stream is nothing but a mechanism that is used to connect to a file that allows you to access one element at a time. So this is all about a stream. And the last slide for today's session is a discussion on some of the standard file pointers. So we know that stdio.h is a standard input output header file, and this same header file consists of a special structure which is called as file. So you can create the pointer to this file structure also. We know that the pointers can be created for the fundamental data types as well as the derived data types and the user defined data types also. Similarly, you can also create the pointers for the files. So without creating a pointer for the file, you never work on the files. You will not be allowed to work on the files without creating a pointer to the file data structure. And the standard input output.h header file consists of 3 file pointers. One is stdin, which is nothing but the standard input stream, which is nothing but a file pointer connected to the keyboard. Similarly, stdout, which stands for standard output. So this file pointer is used to connect the output, which is nothing but the terminal or whatever you say, the output terminal, monitor, whatever it may be. And the third stream which we are going to discuss about these files is stderr, stands for standard error. So this particular file pointer is used to connect to the error window. So what is this error window? Is nothing but a terminal itself. So where you are going to see the errors means on the terminal itself. But this standard error stream, it is going to deal only with the errors. It is going to display the content that is related to the errors. But the output means it is going to display everything related to the output. So that's all for today's session. Let's have a quick recap of what we have discussed in today's session. Right. We have started our discussion on the concept of files, a new concept. We have started our discussion with what a file is. A file is nothing but a collection of related data which the computer treats as a single unit. And where we are going to store these files? We are going to store these files in the secondary storage. Why we require these files? Means for permanent storage. When you want to have some permanent storage of the output or whatever it may be, and those things you need to deal with these files. We have seen 3 scenarios, like how we are going to deal with the permanent output, and how we are going to deal with large inputs to a file, and how we are going to transfer the file from one location to another location. And then we have seen what do you mean by reading a file and what do you mean by writing a file. And we have seen the important data structure to deal with the files in the C, which is discussed or which is defined inside this stdio.h, and the name of the data structure is file, file. Next, we have seen two types of files. One is the text file, the second one is the binary file. Text files have an extension of .txt, whereas the binary files have an extension of .bin. Text files store the data in the form of sequence of ASCII characters, whereas the binary file stores the data in the sequence of zeros and ones. And the third one is the text file's content is human readable, whereas the contents of the binary file is readable by the computer but not readable by the human beings. And text files are less secure and binary files are more secure. Why? Because the contents cannot be viewed, that is the reason why it is more secure. But modification of a single bit in the binary will completely damage the entire file, whereas the modification of a single character in the file does not have that much of damage. And we have seen that we require different software to deal with different binary files, and we require only the text editors to deal with the text files. These are the primary differences we have discussed in this today's session. And then we have gone through two important terminology, that is the buffer and the stream. Buffer is a temporary storage which is used to deal with the to and fro data movements between the primary memory and the secondary memory, whereas a stream is a mechanism that is used to connect a physical file and which allows us to deal with the data being flown in one element by element. Right. And finally, we have ended our discussion with the three standard streams that we deal with, that we are going to use inside this files concept, that is stdin, which deals with standard input, stdout, which deals with standard output, and stderr, which deals with error output. That's all for today's session. Thank you one and all for joining the session.